right, so hello everyone. I think we're going to start lying down. I just have a couple of announcements, but if you don't have any towels, if you could get yourself a couple of towels. A blanket and a towel might work, but it's going to work particularly well with towels, and I have ones a little larger than the other. But just so you don't have to jump back up, if you don't have them, we want to have 2 rolls when we get started. So yes, one of the things I've been thinking about is the good possibility that we will continue to practice in this way. And I'm certainly open to that. It's been very interesting for me, really sort of in thinking, thinking that this is really very similar in some ways, even though it's highly technological, but original yoga was done mostly in isolation. You know, classes are really a modern invention. And so people would just find spaces and quiet, safe spaces and sit quietly, and yoga would just, really be received. So it's interesting that we have this opportunity to explore our body and our mind and our yoga in our own private space. So I think it's an interesting thing to explore. And with that being said, those of you that live in the Hudson Valley and know the Chronogram, the magazine, they've offered me something of a grant or some complimentary advertising for the fall that I might take advantage of. But also a couple of years ago, Mary, one of our yin yoga colleagues, wrote a lovely article about yin yoga. Some of you may have seen it. And I believe Louis is going to, if he hasn't already, put it on the website. It's just a really nice, simple sort of expose of the yin approach to yoga. And there's talk of maybe sort of revisiting, following up that initial article, sort of exploring how now it's morphing into this, this virtual place. So I've been thinking about that, and that may happen in the fall. And so with that in mind, and sort of, making this available to more, more of us, I'd like to invite you, if you have anything to say about these classes and you want to write something of a testimonial, that would be appreciated, and we would find a way to sort of integrate that into what I'm talking about. So just be sure to, mention my new haircut and my sense of humor, and anything maybe about the yoga, that would be, totally secondary. So yeah, so do check that website once in a while, where Louis and I are very good about sort of, keeping it current and adding things that may be interesting. And if I take a break, which will probably happen sometime in August or around there, and then we will also, so I've also been getting more requests to put more of these classes on YouTube. So we have them, and that will be done also within the next couple of weeks. So as well, if I do take a break, you can refer to those. Yeah, so let's get the 2 rolls out. Let's begin. I'd like to just open by lying down. So 2 rolls. The one that's a little bigger, I want to place under your pelvic area. And the one that's a little smaller, I want to place under the upper spine. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about this as you set yourself up. So the first one would be to just set the pelvis up on this. And with the roll, it's a little trickier than we have a flat bolster. So just elevate the hips up a bit. Yeah, make sure that smaller one's not in your way. So you can put that one off to the side for the neck. And the tendency here will be maybe to get a little bit too much into the lower back. So not good. Be up onto the pelvic bowl, you might say. So closer to the tailbone than to the lumbar area. Yeah, and then you can let the legs relax out. Yep, so we'll have that right there. And then let me see, I'm limited for space here. And then the second one, I'd like it to be maybe a little bit more than you're used to, but I'd like you to place the roll right under the neck
So the back of the head is just grazing the floor. Can be even off the floor a bit or grazing the floor. But as you can hopefully see here, my chin is quite a bit angle-wise above my forehead. So we just want it nice and supported. A little bit of compression here, a little bit of compression in the pelvic area. And then you can let the legs just completely relax out. And it may take a little bit of, back and forth or adjusting this roll that's under the pelvis. And then at some point, what we'll do, and I'll just show you may need to unroll this roll that's on the pelvis, is I'm going to invite you to then just shimmy the buttocks to the floor and we'll come into the lower back, but that won't happen till later. And what I'm suggesting at that point, and I will remind you, you may need to lift up, unroll it a bit if it's too much in the lower back, but we'll wait till we get there. Okay, so just settle, relax these two areas as much as possible. If the compression either in the upper spine or in the pelvis is such that it feels unsafe, or even the intensity feels a bit distracting, please take the time to adjust the amount of intensity. So really, we're just starting off by just evoking feeling, sensation, pockets and places of density, but we don't want to distract ourselves from the opening, preparing to go deeper. So just have a nice balance between relaxing, feeling, and approaching your the life force in a very respectful way. Yes, approaching your life force in a very respectful way. So I'd like to just open this particular practice this afternoon with just an open-ended meditative awareness, not particularly a specific visualization, although there may be elements of visualizing, but no need to try to visualize. More just to take the language as it approaches you, the imagery as it approaches you, and just see what intuitively arises. So there's nothing to do but just to really trust the way that your body is, and these other areas that I will bring us to, is just naturally evoked. And the container for opening is just a reminder that let's say your body, yourself, really your life, it all is just absolutely perfect just the way it is. The seamlessness of life, which is what yoga is, the seamlessness of our reality is flawless. It is perfect in its brilliance, in its design, in its unfolding, in its evolution. And one of the awarenesses that yoga offers us is to start to approach when something feels a little off, if something feels dense in the body, if something feels fuzzy in the mind, if something feels contracted in the heart, that this is actually life inviting you to pay attention to something. It's not life saying something is wrong. So I would just like to open with that everything is just fine, and we don't need to fix anything.
As a matter of fact, the impulse to fix something is a clear message that everything is not fine. And life, if we approach it with great sensitivity and great subtlety, will prove us otherwise. So this entire practice, this entire approach to body, mind, heart, and spirit is that there is nothing to do. There's nothing to do except allow yourself the sensitivity of life unfolding in its perfection. So let's just open with that. And now the discipline of yoga. So make sure you're feeling supported in the pelvic area. And make sure the roll under the neck also feels supportive. And if that's the case, if you don't need a further adjustment here, just allow the head to turn as far as you're able or would like to the left. If the chin starts to tuck down a little bit, you may want to adjust the angle of the chin up a little so you feel some tugging or resistance in either side of the neck, maybe more the right, I don't know, but anywhere in this area of the upper cervical spine. And let's just hold it there for a while. And let us begin then with the presence of the physical body. We could call this the biological body. We could call this the chemical body. And so again, just intuit this, just feel this. No need to visualize, although if a visualization begins to appear, certainly feel free to open to that as well. But just to actually feel the density of this physical, chemical, biological being that you are. And let this be very open-ended, where we're not looking for aches or pains. We're not looking for anything except this felt sense of physicality, of soma, if you will, this internal proprioception of how you're feeling without having to, to define everything. And very slowly and very naturally, let that begin to morph into your energetic body, your energy body. And if we want a little more for that, just the body at its primal pulsations. So everything is pulsing. Yes, your bones, your joints, your brain, your cells, your tissues are all in a rhythmic pulsation. So just allow the chemical body to just very naturally morph into your energy body. And to see now we're even lessening the need to define. And unless you're in a very interesting place and you want to stay with the head to the left, very, very slowly, let's bring that head back to a straight spine. And then when you're ready, over to the right. And again, if the chin dips down a little bit, just play with the angle of the chin a bit. And then let's open a bit more. Let's allow this, this permeation of the energy body, these primal pulsations to morph into your mental body. So just yourself as pure intelligence, the intelligence of the feminine as well as the intelligence of the masculine, the intelligence that allows your food to be digested, the intelligence that allows you to sleep and dream and waken and think. So just this intelligence, this mental body, if you will. And then we'll allow the energy of the mental body to morph into just a body of light. And so we know also that at the physical level that the fascia are these fiber optics allowing light to transmit and communicate through the body. So this would be just your body at light, but also at the level of just pure happiness and bliss of consciousness. And this is just a highly impersonal intelligence. It's just you as bliss, as you as consciousness, awareness. So this is very, very vague around the edges, if it even has edges, but still you. And again, no need for specific visualization. Just let your intuitive sense feel this self as a light body. And then having that head off to the right, let's bring it back up to a center position. And you can either leave it here, or you could go back to the left, or you could slowly go back and forth. So just let any density or resistance in the neck guide where you would like to be. And I'll just leave it open-ended for the rest of our time here. And then let's let this light body, this impersonal consciousness bliss move even a little bit further open to just a pure field of awareness. No longer me, mine, just energy, just isness, just non-dual light. This is the I of I am. We may even call this unconditional love. So you're just no more form, but just the energy of the universe, the energy of the cosmos, the energy of you, just being one energy. And then just slowly and intuitively, and I'll just share the language, but at your own pace, allow this pure field of awareness, this unconditional love to morph into your light body. Allow the light body to permeate the mental body. Allow the mental body to permeate the energy body, and allow the energy body to permeate the physical body, the chemical body. The presence of yourself as simply aliveness, as conscious awareness, as an open field of intelligence. let's bend the knees and put the feet on the floor. Your choice. This works well either way. If you'd like to leave the roll under the neck, if it feels supportive and the compression is being received in a good way, you can leave it. If you'd like to remove it, what we're going to do now with the feet on the floor is just bring the body down so this roll slips up into the lower back with the buttocks on the floor. Like I said earlier, you may need to elevate and unroll it a bit, or it may be fine the way it is. So we're just going to transfer the energy from pelvic bowl, sacral lumbar area to now lumbar area. The most important thing is to have the buttocks on the floor and have the compression so it's safe. And we'll just stay here for a bit. And any time to remove that neck, if you would like I said, you can leave it there. Sometimes it's just nice, and it's also can be very connective in feeling the compression in the lumbar and the compression in the cervical, and we have the two undulating curves in between. And when I say connective in that way, certainly it can be a very physical felt sense. We can feel like, oh yes, when I breathe, this pulsation of my upper spine, undulating and articulating to my lower spine. But I mentioned a bit earlier that one of the components of the fascia is it has this fiber optic nature. And so this is how your body can communicate within itself at the speed of light. It's a quantum communication, a quantum coherence, much, much, much faster than nerve impulse. So again, just to intuit this felt sense of this connectivity of your body, and it's happening all over, fingertips to toes, belly to spleen to heart, brain to lungs, a lot going on in there. It's still on.
No, I think we only have two receivers.
And I do think, one of the reasons that I opened that way and sort of teasing open the imagery of the body is because it's very, it's just very easy to become habituated to this self-image of the body, to take it so seriously in terms of its solidity and its density and, just the way our history gets woven into it, and we begin to think that is somehow real. And I think it is very valuable to relax into our relationship with everything, where we actually came from, the intelligence that allows us to be here, the intelligence that actually created us is us, and we can't separate that. The intelligence that maintains that heartbeat, the intelligence that allows us to grow and learn and evolve, it's who we are. And sometimes we get a bit stuck, and we believe that this self-image and this density of physicality of biology and chemicals is who we are. And so to relax beyond that, and not even beyond that, to relax into that, and to see that the pulsation of our heart, the pulsation of our brain is the same pulsation as the stars in the ocean and the universe itself. And this is certainly part of the exploration of the yoga. There are many stories in the Vedas of of that the entirety of the cosmos is compressed into a single human being. And so part of the self-inquiry of our yoga is to feel that, to go in and feel that we don't only navigate through, intellectual understanding, but we navigate also from this place of light and unconditional love and consciousness. And this blending within us sometimes is a worthy thing to explore. This is why, I suggested that, everything is absolutely fine. We are all already where we need to be. And then we get to listen as we grow. And as we grow, we learn to listen. So it's a lovely, yoga tends to be a very lovely thing. So let's come out of this. So the first thing, if you still have the roll under the neck, maybe head side to side a bit or straighten out the head. Just make sure the density in the neck is addressed. And then you can remove that roll if you still have it. If you still have the roll under the lumbar area, put your feet on the floor. Maybe let your knees go side to side a bit. Maybe elevate the hips a bit. And let's remove that roll. And we'll take a rest here. Good. So just breathe, relax, settle in. And no need to navigate this. No need to, it's a really interesting, somatic meditation in that we're not being invited to focus in this practice. We're invited to notice what noticing even is. What is it that this energy of noticing is? So instead of getting drawn into and lost into and continually dissecting what arises, we simply notice what arises. So allow that to happen right now. Just relax, breathe, and then whatever it's in this physical body, in this energy body, this mental body, this light body, this bliss body, just notice it. Just enjoy it. Nothing to do. It's just there. It's just you. It's just you, not to minimize you, but you are just a particle of light flickering in consciousness. And having this interesting experience on a very watery planet out in the middle of nowhere. Good. So let's come on up, please, if you will. And nice and slowly, though. Yes, we've been down for a bit. So come on up and let's open both legs out. And let's leave the right leg out and extended. And if you can see my leg, I'm not activating it or keeping it hip width. I'm relaxing this right hip as much as possible. And then we're going to take the left leg and bring it somewhere along the inside of this right leg and just let this right knee relax. Sometimes this can be tricky for that left hip. If that's the case, you always feel free to put something under there so we don't go into defensive mode with the body, but we're always trying to keep it open and loose. And then the posture, the weight of the body starts to evoke the density. So if that's needed, yes. And then we're going to slowly come forward here. So always slow because you want to feel what the position and the body weight is evoking. This is why we're doing it.
So we're not wanting to bypass this to get some to aesthetic position. We're wanting to see, oh yes, this is evoking something. Now let me notice it. And it's that noticing, evoking, that really determines where you end up. And you may end up on a couple of pillows to relax the arms, drop the head down, but just someplace you can, stay in relative stillness. So the stillness is not out of some discipline. The stillness is to let you notice with greater subtlety and greater sensitivity. So always adjust if one needs to, but don't adjust to get away from the discomfort, to get away from what's being evoked. Adjust if it's a valid adjustment that it feels intuitive. Otherwise, just let yourself notice what is being evoked. And no need to define it as uncomfortable or painful. If the body wants to give you a message that this is not safe, it will give you that message, and then certainly you listen to that. And one of the reasons that I invited you to not creatively visualize, although certainly I do understand, and sometimes I even suggest that there is certainly a place for creative visualization. Yes, it can be very powerful, but it's also a very good skill and certainly foundational to yoga to be able to discern between abstraction and experience. And this is really, entering into, to the art of yoga, to be with your energy as it is. So we could certainly creatively visualize a light body or an energy body, and even visualize aspects of the physical body. But to make that discernment, and this is a very personal thing. It really depends on where you are in a particular moment in time to be able to discern, oh yes, this is abstraction and this is what I'm experiencing. So this is why always, and the primacy of yoga is to work with your energy as it is, not as you wish it to be, not as you imagine it to be, and then allow yourself the awareness to permeate this energy, to go into it, to feel it, to soften it, to explore it. So very slowly, let's come on up from here. And let's leave the right leg exactly where it is extended out. And let's take this left leg and scoop it around back as if you are going to open it all the way. But as soon as the left hip starts to tug now, so I'm not tucking it in towards the right thigh, I'm opening it out and a little back. So opening it and pressing it back, but just to a little left hip external rotation tug. And then if you're leaning quite a bit to the right, this is where you put your support so you can support the upper body. If not so much over to the right and you can come a little evenly, something on the left side of the right leg works. Or if you're able to just sort of settle onto your forearms. This is a tricky one just because of the torquing of the pelvis, the tugging of the left hip, and whatever's going on in the back of the right leg. It's a little complicated there. So just find a good place where you can settle in, and even though it's awkward and uncomfortable, try to enjoy the time here and not struggle. So this is why I invite you to make adjustments so you can feel, certainly, but also contemplate this idea of noticing. We're not assessing the body, and I encourage you to be wary of assessing yourself. Assessment usually leads to some form of fragmentation. So just to feel, what does it feel like right now? What does it feel like right now? What am I noticing? Different than assessing, we don't have to overlay or superimpose theories or fixes or wishings on it, but just how do I feel right now, breath by breath. And also certainly because an assessment implies that we're going to be able to then come up with some sort of result. And the truth is that there is no result we're moving towards, that your body is in a continual motion of change and evolving and movement and expressing itself. And this is more what we're interested in. We're more interested in the way that your energy is contracting and opening, and the way that we're feeling physical, mental, energy, light. So an assessment just is not necessary, and it's very limiting. There's no result to be had from being alive. Being alive is enough. So then if you do approach at any time this place of preoccupation, if you find yourself preoccupied, this is not noticing. This is preoccupation. So this is when you want to withdraw a bit, you want to let the body shift a bit and rearrange so you can simply notice. Notice has an open-ended freedom to it. That preoccupation is sort of the beginning of protection mode, the beginning of moving the body into defensiveness. So you want to step back from that a bit and just like, okay, here I am back in these energy patterns, this internal pulsation, and I can just notice. Good. So let's come on up from here. And let's keep that right leg out. So let's keep the right leg out as we started. And let's take this left leg and bring it right back to where it was, or approximately to where it was. What I mean by that is if you want to bring it up a little higher or let it come down a little lower, please feel free to do that. Remember, you can support under the left thigh if you need to. And the position of the upper body may or may not be the same as last time because we opened up the pelvis a bit. So let it, have a couple of passes left to right, see how the lumbar, the hips are doing, and then we'll settle into a depth that feels appropriate, or at least approach that depth. That may take, several minutes to find. So same forward bend we were in. The right leg stays out, left foot on the upper inner or calf or to the knee, and a gentle, soft lower back for the forward bend. If you're holding the neck and the shoulders, see if you can relax the head a bit. Feel into the, any density in the neck. And oftentimes, when we do use our, our innate creativity to use creative visualization to, move through layers of our, our incarnation from physical to unconditional love, that can often give us the impression that there are boundaries between them, that there are actual layers. So one of the things that we're interested in as we sort of move into these different energies is to see, unless we create a boundary, by visualizing it, there is no boundary. So it's lovely to just have that space for ourselves. And this can be, really wildly creative, to feel oneself as solid and present and biological and chemical, to just feel ourselves as the wind of the universe itself, without any form, but just pure awareness. And so in between, there's no in between, there are no boundaries. This is just sort of a convenience of metaphor and language. So just allow yourself to feel
to be present, to let go of the need to control or focus, and just be grateful. Just be grateful that you have this this gift of being alive, this gift of being conscious, this open field of being aware. And this is precisely what yoga is. So we want to, allow any misunderstandings about this simple but profound word of yoga dissipate. Any misunderstandings dissipate. Yoga has never been a moving from a place of fragmentation to a place of wholeness. Yoga meaning union. Yoga is just simply saying we are union, we are unified with. And it's a simple relaxing into that, a simple recognition of that. So we don't need to go looking for anything. We don't need to do yoga. We are yoga.
Okay, so let's come on up.
And I guess with that, though, if we don't need to do yoga, I guess every week everybody can just go home. Oh, but you're already home. So let's just keep doing this then. So let's take a rest now. So let your left leg relax out. Let's lie down and let's take a rest and take a rest. And we'll keep not doing yoga. Let's keep not doing yoga. Okay, so maybe not so much on the testimonials, my sense of humor. I understand. Maybe just the haircut. Okay, come on up. Let's do the other side of this. Same exact thing on the other side. So this is nice sometimes to balance out our forward bends. A lot of times I don't balance them out. I just have something in between, usually a backward bend, and then get back to it. But I like the balancing as well. So let's keep the left leg out and we'll bring the right leg in somewhere. Again, if you need some support under this right thigh, feel free. And allow the body to gently soften forward. And we have plenty of time, so really honor the ascent in or the descent in to, be as juicy and valuable as being in the pose. So once you're there, you can really sink in and and just cultivate that sense of juiciness. You're marinating in these this chemical body, if you will, this fluid body. And this is why, I really do encourage you, and it has been such an evolution in my own practice, and even in my own teaching, that in my practice informs the teaching, is to really let go as much as possible that you're doing anything incorrectly. So the yin yoga really is just a modern term for this much more ancient original yoga, where the body was simply used to evoke sensation. And this is intuitive. This is not technical. This is not based on alignment. So when you're, using this shape, using this superficial geometry to evoke something, once something is evoked, this is a doorway for you to explore. So there's really no way to do it incorrectly. And furthermore, there's really no way to become injured if you stay absolutely present. Typically, going too deep or tweaking something is from not being present with the process that you're involved in. And the mind can wander, and the relationship between the muscle, the fascia, the skeleton isn't given proper attention to move in and out. So, it's always a good reminder, because I know sometimes the mind goes to, does it look like I showed it, or is this right? Or that's just movement of the mind. At some level, that's just distractions from really being present with any level of discomfort, any level of pain, when the pain and discomfort are much more valuable teacher than I will ever be. To evoke something in your body that's allowing you to ease into density and restriction and contraction, that's the teaching. I'm just saying, do it safely, do it mindfully. I'm just saying, be careful. So once again, let's come on up from here. And we'll do the same thing. We'll keep that left leg extended out. We'll take this right leg and bring it around in back of you, and just opening this knee a bit and just pressing this leg a little bit. Doesn't really matter. You'll feel that right hip tug. And then again, if you're going over left side, support yourself there. If not necessary on the left, on the inside of the leg or wherever it's needed. Not a pose we want to force. Well, we never want to force it, because we're working with a system that really doesn't or cannot be forced. So you feel there's a little force or a little struggle, readjust, back off, just find the way that, make sure you're not using the body to get into a posture, but you're using the asana to get into the body. That's always primary. And then just relax, and we'll spend some time. when I was inviting you earlier to, relax into the awareness of your light body, and I mentioned that information processes within your systems and your organs are moving at the speed of light, I was being literal. This is science. This is not mythology. So most of these connective tissue the pathways, if you will, are based on this liquid fluid crystal, and the compressing of it is stimulating the movement of this information, the flow of the light force, the life force throughout the body. So we can feel this. We don't have to imagine it. We can just feel these different layers of sort of energetic movement. And really, the language is so limited. So just take any language and understand that it's just pointing beyond what can be articulated. And we just enter into this felt sense of our aliveness. And of course, yes, at some point, it's just very mysterious. It's just miraculously mysterious. And this is part of our practice, is to be able to sit not knowing, and to really be able to appreciate the wisdom and the growth that is available from not knowing. And also, I have to say, the trust that comes from not knowing, because ultimately what begins to happen when we trust this not knowing is it has a way of informing us. And we're like, wow, that's interesting. I now have open consciousness a bit to take in something that was not articulated, that was not a rubber stamp of information. So the not knowing, very, very wise. The not knowing, the feminine, the not knowing, the open-ended, the open-ended space of awareness that doesn't need to always translate through the left hemisphere of the brain.
Okay, so let's come on up.
And one of the nice, just a little maybe side note here, one of the nice things about doing both of these together is because this particular position will evoke something very different in the back of the leg, the hamstring. So if you're only doing forward bends with the leg out and the other leg on the inside, or both legs out in a forward fold, we're going into the hamstrings in a repetitive way. So opening that back leg, and you may feel that, it's just different here. I won't go into it anatomically, but trust me. So now we're doing it again, and part of it is to feel the difference, if you can feel a difference. So now we're going to come forward, and maybe something has shifted a bit, maybe subtle, maybe not, but you want to be looking out for that where, at this anatomical level, certainly, we are, compressing and releasing and shifting, and the compression ultimately leads to levels of release. Sometimes they're very subtle, but they accumulate over time. So allow yourself to come forward. We'll come into the second part of the forward bend. This type of intelligence that I'm talking about, you cannot think your way to this intelligence. And I'm not minimizing thinking, but one of the things that we're attempting to do in this vast container of yoga, uh, again, is to see the difference between abstraction and direct experience. So the thought is basically abstraction. So we're not using the thought to access this, this deeper intelligence or this more intuitive, universal intelligence. And certainly this is a balance. You know, we don't want to turn this into a technique or something that's either or, because certainly we want to, often we want to take mental notes. You know, we want to um, access the wisdom of our left hemisphere, the knowledge that we have about body, mind, and just the way that we're, working. You know, how are we evolving, and where are we stuck, or where do we feel uh, all of these things. But what we're also interested in is how to come into a deeper sense of balance, how to allow that mental noting to also take a rest and not turn into the navigator, and how we start to allow a more organic kind of intelligence to blend with that intellectual intelligence. And I believe there's no end to this. This is the human condition, is to come out of balance. And that's a way that life, like I was saying earlier, life will give us signals, will give us information, and then we come closer back into balance. This is individual for everyone. And this is why cultivating a deeper intuitive listening is so important. The deeper intuitive listening, and also letting go of this addictive need to improve ourselves. The need to improve ourselves is telling ourselves we're not okay, we're not worthy, we're not good just the way that we are. Much better to start from, I'm fine the way that I am. Now, what is it that life wants to share with me so I can explore and open and grow?
Good. So let's come on up, please. And let's lie down, and we will take another short Shavasana.
And let me just say that again, in case you're thinking about it and trying to figure out what I just said, that you cannot think your way to intelligence. This takes just a very lovely, profound trust in just the process of life unfolding. And this is also why, on some level, really, that worry is just insanity, really, on some level, because worry means we're preoccupied thinking about something that's not happening. So the invitation always is, how do we bring our focus, our energy, our senses back to what is happening, and really viscerally, directly sink into that, this knowledge that we're experiencing. All we have is experiencing. It's just beautiful, deep, and safe. And so worry is then going outside of that to something that's not happening. And most of the time, 99.9% of the time, it's not the same when we get there. If we get there, it's not the imagery of worrying, the projection of future circumstances. It just isn't what we were projecting, because the present has a different texture and quality to it. And it just frees up more energy. It frees up the energy of being present, the presence of life, instead of the projection of life. So, yeah, we want to stay sane at that level, you know, and the worry is a form of insanity. Okay, so let's come on up from the rest, and I just want to work with the toes a bit and the ankles a bit and the Achilles tendon a bit. So these areas, very, very important, and especially if we spend a lot of our sort of physical modalities with the torso and the pelvic area and the shoulders, which are good to do. But, you know, if the knees, we do a lot of the knees in this practice, but these areas, suppleness here is very, very important. And when we do start to look at the structure of the fascia in the body that's connecting and holding everything together, typically we have the blockages in the joints because that's where there's a higher concentration of this webbing. So when that gets contracted, this is why as we age, the stiffness starts to, you know, show up in the joints. So if we're putting body weight on these areas of the ankles, the Achilles, and the toes, then it's inhibiting the rest of the chi and the movement from the lower body up to the arms and the fingertips as well. So just kind of play with this a little bit. Obviously, it doesn't have to be exactly like I'm doing it. Just sort of move through and just see the general structure of it. I'm going to go to the side for this. So what you can do here is maybe start on your knees. And I put this this would either be your large bolster or some pillows. I'll just use one pillow, whatever you need for support here. But let's see if you can curl the toes back and come up onto the toes like this, yeah? So sometimes you have to manually get that little toe involved. And so what we're doing is we just have all 10 toes as flat as possible. And then the two movements here, and so if you need some more support up front, you put your bolster up here to hold on to, or your pillows, is we want to press the arches forward and the heels up. Yeah, so it looks something like this. And, you know, again, try not to, you have 10 of them, try not to break too many of them with this if you can avoid that. So just kind of lean into it. What's often nice, what gets a little more flexible is if you don't need the bolster, is to lean forward on the fingertips, make two claws out front, because then we're connecting the meridians from fingertips to toes. So this is completing a very powerful circuit in the body, but that may be asking a little too much, I understand, yeah. And then so from here, with the feet together, if we were to do this with the feet at hip width, this squat would be more for the hips, but with the feet together like this, yeah, the feet together,
and we can start to press the heels down. And again, if you can have something to hold on to, and this works well. I know you're at home. If you want to hold on to a wall or a table or something, and put the heels down. So putting the heels down from this position with the feet together is addressing the Achilles tendons. Yep. So eventually we want to get to this point where we can balance, and then we can come back up into the toe stretch. So if you're feeling like, whoa, no way I'll ever get the heels down, and this feels a little restricted below the calf up from the ankle, this is a sign that the Achilles tendon have constricted, have contracted. And do trust me on this, you do not want anything to go with those Achilles tendons. So this would be something you want to really work with. Up into the toes, arches forward, heels up, heels down. You just sort of play till it starts feeling supple in that area. Yep. And then if you can find the balance or hold on to some weight, or even, like I said, just something solid in front is good for this. So good for this. Good. So from here, enough of this. You can undo the curling of the toes and come into the ankle stretch. And if you're not able, if this is just too much, just put the knees up on the pillow or the bolster. I'm getting so used to these pillows. I can't wait till I'm home and I have my bolsters. And then what you can do is you can just lean back. So you see the weight, my knees are coming up a little bit. And then you can modulate this. If you need to come forward, release it, come into a cat-cow and release those knees and the ankles. If you're feeling some suppleness in the ankles, the ankle stretch without the support would just be the fingers again on each side of the hips, raise the knees up. And then two things here. If we bring the knees down from here and the upper body back, this is more for the ankles. It's all of this weight just right into the ankle. Yep. If you bring the knees up and the upper body forward, this is more for the metatarsals and the arch of the foot. So we want to sort of at some point get to both, down into the ankle, up into the metatarsals, down to the ankle, up into the metatarsals. Yeah, so just kind of play with this, move very slowly, be very interested. There's a lot of bones, there's a lot of ligamentation, a lot of little small bones in the foot. So just kind of play with it. And then wherever you're at with this, if you have your knees on the bolster, let's come into child's pose. And just relax. So just release that from the feet and just relax. Good. So you can just come to the side and just sit, put the legs forward. And let's just take a moment to just see how that feels. So, kind of not bypass the reverberation of all that compression, especially if you're not used to it. But, suppleness in the feet, I could just go into it for a long time, how it affects one's gait and posture and shoulders and hip relationship. So, just the way that we move, day to day on our body is really often a result of where the contraction is in the body and the flow of the chi. And like I said, the joints are where the fascia really binds up quite a bit. Okay, good. So we have the legs out. You may want just one of your towels, not for elevation, but just for some support. We're going to start with open square. So let's bring the left leg in front of you, and then we're going to take the right foot and just put it out front. So just a nice open square, make any adjustments how you would like. Bring it in closer if you want, open it out. And then coming forward, same thing. If you're a little tentative in the knees or the hips, better to go slower, better to support the body weight so we're not just diving in. We want to just put a big toe in first and see how it feels, and then just relax in. You cannot find your place in the universe if you are the universe. You cannot become enlightened if you are light. And I think when we're approaching this level of inquiry, I think it's good to remember that there are times when we do want to be radical with ourselves. We want to become as present and as visceral and as clear as possible. And then there are other times when we want to be very gentle with ourselves and we want to just simply appreciate the gift and the power of relaxation. And this, in a way, is really the beauty of the container of the Hatha Yoga. The Hatha Yoga is saying, good to soften up the body, good to open the joints, good to release some of the density. And then the container is more available. The container is not so distracted by aches and pains and concerns with health and aging. And then the container then can be used in a more radical way to
to recognize the nature of our being, because that's where our happiness is. Our happiness, as most of us know, is not ever found in objective experience, the external things that we seem to get attracted to. It's just simply knowing our own sense of beingness. And so let us come on up, please. And let's get some pillows or a big bolster. I want to just get some height for the shoulders, and then maybe something for to support the head. But the placement of this initially will just be the shoulders on, not over. Yeah, that'll just open the back up. So we're just going to put the shoulders on either the big bolster or your pillows. And more height can be good, especially if the arms go back and touch the floor. So if I wanted more height here, I might put a blanket or a pillow on this. So when we bring the arms back, and then if you could let the head drop back, if that's compatible with your neck. If not, support that head as much as possible, so we don't obviously pinch or strain the neck at all. And then what I'm going to suggest, I have my legs crossed only because I don't have space to open them, but you can open the legs out, or you could keep the soles of the feet together if you would like as well, to sink into the hips. But I'm going to simply suggest to lightly interlock the fingers. We're not going to press the palms, and just let the arms relax back. And try not to bend the elbows. Bending the elbows will bring the hands to the floor. If the hands easily go to the floor with the elbows straight, then you might want to consider getting a little bit more height. So if I brought some more height to this, then I don't really have to show you. You can listen to what I'm saying. But if I bring more height to this, yes, I may have to protect my neck more. My shoulders are on this height, but now my hands don't come anywhere near the floor. And this is what we want. We want the weight of the arms drawing you into something being evoked in the shoulder girdle. And certainly be intuitive. This is based on the amount of tension that you're holding, the amount of contraction in this incredibly complicated ligamented area of the shoulders and the lower neck and even the cervical spine to some extent. So, feel free to bend the elbows a little bit. Feel free to let the hands come out of the interlocked fingers, and just kind of play with it. So use the density as the gauge of either softening or intensifying, but listen very carefully. This is, this listening is something that we develop, that it's not just a spectrum of, no pain. It's a spectrum of tremendous subtlety. The pain has texture, and the pain is always changing, and the way that we listen can be evolved, or is evolving, I should say. Really no choice about that. Good. So let's relax the arms wherever you have them over the head. So just put them in a place that can be very relaxing. And we'll just stay here for a bit. And I've come to think that, you know, once you reach that place where your body starts to get this, you know, way of being with it, this approach, that it's very much like just gently hanging out with your body. You know, initially, if we have a lot of tension and a lot of contraction, a lot of stiffness, a lot of dehydration, it's like we just want that to move through that. We want to push through that or have it go away. But as we start to see the value of slowing down and being present with, and the subtlety of movement and stillness, and the body starts to respond, you know, it's not we have to make a decision to do this. This is what your body intuitively wants. Then it's just basically gently hanging out with the body and seeing that, you know, no one has to tell you this is therapeutic and beneficial. The body will tell you that. The body craves hydration, just like the body craves oxygen, craves nutrition. So the compression and release is, you know, so primary to rehydrating the body at this fascial cellular level. So let's bring the arms back over the head, if you will. Again, fingers gently interlocked or not, elbows without straining, as straight as possible, and just weight of the arms dangling back. This time, I would just like you to bring a little bit more depth and awareness to your breathing. And when you inhale, I'd like you to feel that there's going to be some resistance compression at the top and maybe a little lower of the solar plexus. Yeah? And I want you to feel that. And when you exhale, I want you to keep exhaling till there's a bit of resistance compression up into the upper chest. And just do this slowly and mindfully, knowing that on that inhale, that compressive feeling in the top mid solar plexus is a contact and a manipulation, massaging of the torso organs. On the exhale, that restriction, compression, felt sense up into the upper chest is a manipulation, a massaging of the heart muscle. So just go to your range of motion and very slowly feel this, especially when you have the ribs open. And also just to honor, you know, it may not be quite clear, but as the flexibility and the flow comes to the respiratory diaphragm, you can actually feel this internal muscle. It's, you know, just incredibly important and a complex muscle. And so the more we can open that and release that, the implications to the flow of the upper and lower body, your breathing mechanism, so many things, is really profound. And so this is how we start, is just an awareness on the inhalation. It has a downward movement in terms of its flow. And on the exhalation, has an upward movement in terms of its contraction and flow. Good. So once again, let's relax the arms. And then let's put your feet on the floor and just roll off of this contraption, if you will.
this bolstering. And just curl on your side for a few moments. We're going to
Go back into the other side of that open square. Good. So let us come on up. And so once again, for this lovely position, we will bring the right leg in this time, something a little padding. If you choose, I mean, I don't really need it here because I have carpet, but if it's a little bit on the ankle, that's not what we really want. So sometimes it's just the padding is nice. And make sure that you're not habitually just hinging from the hips and coming forward. The motion is much more a relaxing of the upper spine, feeling the weight of the torso, and an unengagement of the lumbar muscles, the intrinsic muscles of the lower back, so you can really soften in and then support your body weight in any way that you need to. You do not need to find your place in the universe because you are the universe. You do not need to seek enlightenment because you are light. And you do not need to do anything externally to become more worthy, because the innate nature of your being is worthiness. You cannot separate yourself from the worthiness of life. An apple tree does not question its worthiness. So there's nothing to do. There's no external experience or thing that can make you more worthy. And trying to become more worthy on any level is a message to the source that we don't believe we are worthy. So allow yourself to just rest in the innate worthiness that you are. And then just to enjoy your experiences as they unfold.
Good. So let's come on up from here.
And I want to I want to go back to possibly close to where we started, either with a roll. So just kind of sit up and shake that off. Or if you'd like to use a bigger pillow or the big bolster, yes, for that. So the bolster or the pillow will just be a little bit broader. Putting the roll into the lumbar, we've already been there. It'll be a little bit more specific. And then, so we'll do that. And then what I'm going to suggest, instead of then, once you have that established, instead of letting the legs relax out, what I'm going to suggest is to bring the soles of the feet together and bring them as close up to the groin as you can. And then we'll let them come out maybe like 5 or 6 inches and let the knees relax to the side. Yeah, again, if you need something under the thighs, if this is too intense, please honor that. And then I'm going to suggest to bring them up, maybe 5 or 6 inches, and hold them, let them fatigue a little bit, and then relax them back down. Bring them up, let them fatigue, maybe 10, 15 seconds, and then let them relax back down, back into the hips. So we'll keep the soles of the feet together the whole time. So either use a bolster to come across or a small, the roll again, and you can make the roll a little bit higher if you'd like. Either way, if you're using the bolster, bigger pillows, or the roll, keep the buttocks on the floor, settle into it, let the upper body relax back. And then instead of, like we usually would do, to let the legs relax out, bring the soles of the feet back together. Yeah, adjust in the lumbar if you need to, and then bring the heels as far up towards the groin as you can. Once you have that, let the feet then relax back out with the soles of the feet together, 5 or 6, 7 inches, not all the way out. Yeah. So then the knees and the thighs and the legs can just relax to the side, drawing you into the hips. And let's stay here for a bit. So don't start the up and down movement quite yet. And as always, any time that we introduce, movement into our yin approach, we want to keep in mind that it's passive movement, passive motion. So we're not moving for strength or even for movement. We're moving in the context of stillness. We're moving to explore the threads of the tension. So when you move, do so with that in mind, that we're moving very slowly to kind of feel that discernment between the compression and how the body's holding and responding to the compression, and then the release and how the body's responding to the release. So let's do that for a bit now. Just do this at your own pace, from the knees completely relaxed out, keeping the soles of the feet, bring them up like 5 or 6 or 7 inches, and just hold it for a while. I won't time it. It's going to be unique to everyone, but you'll kind of feel them. Let them fatigue a little bit. They can even shake a little bit. And then, 10, 15 seconds, let them relax back down. And just do this repeatedly for a while. This also has a nice effect on the psoas as well. This would be best to not have anything under your head. So if you did slip a roll under the head and you can just put the head flat, it would be better for this connection from hips up into the upper spine. But if you need a little something more for comfort, but not to exaggerate that lumbar curve. And we don't want to bring the knees too far up. If the feet start to go flat to the floor, just stop there. And you can even extend this to maybe 20, 25 seconds of keeping the knees up, and then just let them relax back down and kind of soften into the hips. hips, SI joint, the sacral spine, psoas. There's just a complexity of imagery, but at some point we just float into the feeling of it, float into this felt sense of the body, the chemical body, the biological body, the energy body, the mental body, the light body, and just the open spaciousness of who we are without boundaries. Good. So the next time you relax the legs down, let them sort of settle a bit. And then when you're ready, let's just open the legs straight out and just stay really sensitive to that shift, all the compression, the density of what you're feeling in this area, and then the release. Open the legs and then open them a little bit wider than the hips as well. Really let the feet splay out to the side so everything, quadriceps, hips, SI joint can really relax. And then from here, let's even move a little bit closer to where we opened full circle. So if you can then just quickly, well, not quickly, but just to make the transition, put the feet back on the floor and just bring the hips back on the pelvic, back of the pelvis onto this roll. So we'll come out of the lumbar now, just to sort of gradually release that. And then have a little bit of movement here. If you would like to bring the knees up to the chest and have a little sway. Just any sensitivity, anything at all in this area of the body. This is such an area to take our microscopes to our magnifying glass and really spend time with it. Such a density of ligaments in the pelvis and so connective to upper and lower body. So make a note, make a note to be as kind and compassionate with your pelvis and lumbar area as you possibly can. And then let's move into a very comfortable shavasana, if you will. I'd like to end with a meditation, a very short meditation, and a poem that I've been reading since I've been here. I've had I think I've told you, most of you, I'm in South Florida to help care for my father-in-law, who, for the most part, it's a caring at the level of hospice. And I'm leaving tomorrow, and it's just been really a profound journey for me to be that close to that energy, and not only physically but mentally, with the dissipation of the memory and all the identity that goes with that. So this is a meditation that I've been doing daily, and I've been reading this poem along with it. It's the poem is sort of a beautiful balance holding this meditation. So just make yourself comfortable. And again, no need to listen directly, but just allow your body, if your body vibrates with this, it will take what it needs. And certainly, just like the asana, we're just noticing if something is evoked. If something is evoked, we just simply notice it and allow it to be. We're not, again, using this in a linear or preparatory way, but just to evoke the natural movement of the mind and the heart. I am going to die. Let me just spend a moment with this simple fact of life, that I am going to die. I do not know when I am going to die. It could be very soon, or it could be eons from now. I honestly do not know. I do not know how I'm going to die. And if I'm completely honest, no matter how many times I've looked through the Tibetan Book of the Dead, I do not know what will happen. Possibly similar to going into a dreamless sleep, where consciousness just simply fades back into the current of the universe without my identity or personality. And then I won't know that I don't know. And the show is over. Possibly the current of consciousness remains, and the energy of consciousness prepares to reanimate. And then I just simply sit with as much patience and stillness as possible to allow my options to unfold. This is by Mary Elizabeth Fry. Do not stand at my grave and weep. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die. Namaste.